I love the way you described it because it's like Game of Thrones in real life and without a disappointing ending. Like it's kind of crazy. Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watcher Pass. Today I'm talking to Stephen Williams, the director of Chevalier, which is coming to theaters on April 21st, 2023. We're going to talk to him right now. And while you're watching, if you could like and subscribe to this channel, that would be fantastic. Also, a lot. Thank you. So thanks so much for joining me. This is Stephen Williams, the director of Chevalier, which is coming to theaters on April 21st, 2023. It is a fascinating story about, I guess, a little known figure that played a big role in revolutionary France. He had some amazing ideas. He had some amazing work that just kind of fell away in history, and now it's coming to the big screen, so you can check it out for yourself. And thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
So the first question is, how did you get involved in this film? Have you known of Joseph Bologne debefore, or did the script come across your desk and you're like, oh my God, I have to tell the story? Like, how did you get involved?
Yeah, bingo. Second one. Never heard of him. Never heard of Joseph Bologne, much to my embarrassment. I had never heard of Chevalier. I had no idea that he existed. The script, I was fortunate enough to have the script sent to me by Searchlight Pictures, and it was a brilliant piece of work written by Stefani Robinson. And from the opening scene, I was like just blown away by how innately cinematic Joseph Bologne's life was. He was, a virtuosic violinist. He was a composer of concertos, of opera. He was a champion fencer, marksman, equestrian. The American president, John Adams, described him as the most accomplished man in all of Europe, and I'd never heard of him. And I started a deep dive into research once I read the script, and very quickly knew that this was something that I was compelled to bring to the screen.
Yeah, so okay, I guess the next question was what about the story made you want to direct this? But it does sound like, you felt both kind of empowered or like energized by his story, then also this like inner need to like get this out to everyone because like you, I had never heard of this person before. But kind of seeing everything he accomplished and just how unlikely it was that he would become an accomplished violinist, a fencer, a French nobleman, like that was just such an insane story. And so it makes sense that you would just want to tell it so everyone can know him.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. I mean, it's kind of it's wild, right? Because just hearing you recount that litany of amazing accomplishments of this guy, I'm like, yeah, that story is so cinematic, and it's operatic too, right? I mean, how trippy is it that this guy was a composer of opera and his life was operatic? Like, it was defined by big passions, whether for music or for love or revenge, jealousy, revolution. And so, all of that was like innately fascinating. But then one other layer of the story of his life story was, pre-revolutionary France, minus the wigs and the costumes, so much of what was unfolding in at 17, mid to late 1700s in France is like recognizable today. It's still so much of the turmoil and so much of what's happening on a social and cultural level is feels very, very culturally relevant and very, very contemporary. And then beyond that, I just recognized and connected with the story on a personal level, because here's this guy from a small Caribbean island, Guadeloupe, makes his way to Europe and tries to understand his role in the world by excelling. And, I came from Jamaica. I was born in Jamaica. I left when I was 13. I went to high school and university in England before I came to America. And so much of what transpired in his life felt like I could really identify with it. And for all of those reasons, the contemporary kind of cultural relevance of the story, the fact that its story was just innately cinematic, and that he came from the same part of the world that I did, and went on this kind of crazy life journey. It just felt like this is a story that I had to tell.
Yeah, for sure. And I love the parallels that you drew to, like, both your own life and then just kind of like, I don't know, the general immigrant story, like someone who is essentially an outsider comes in and, they are told that they have to excel in order to be accepted, which is, sad, but it is kind of true, right? Like if if they're not going to get any help around them, they're going to have to be the best to be able to rise up and kind of take their place in society. So I think
Yeah,
that is
absolutely.
yeah, it's a very relatable story, at least. And sadly, as you mentioned, some of the themes are still kind of relevant today as they were back in the 1800 or 18th century. So
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And just his transformation. The movie is really a story about uh someone coming into a greater sense of self-awareness of themselves. And I feel like, as you said, that's a really kind of universal journey. I think we all kind of start at a certain place in terms of what we think we understand and what we think we know about ourselves. And then life intrudes, and the way in which we respond to what life throws at us helps us evolve and learn and grow and change. And we either get lost in that, in that storm, in that maelstrom, or we discover other aspects about ourselves and reconnect ourselves with our deeper and truer essence. And that's the latter version is the story of Chevalier and the story of Joseph Bologne in our movie.
for sure. And like he must have been just like conflicted at the start. And I like how you portrayed this through the film. Like at the start, he seems very kind of out of touch with his culture, his heritage, especially when he kind of reunites with someone from his past. But
Yeah.
then as it goes on, it feels like there's like push and pull in him. Like he has this status because of this system, but then also that is the same system that is preventing him from really kind of being who he is. And I loved kind of that interchange and his growth throughout this story that you were able to tell.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really right. By the end of the movie, he, in the movie and as in real life, again, it's really important to understand that these are factual. This part is factually true and emotionally and spiritually and psychologically true.
Mhm.
When the movie opens, Joseph ascends into the upper echelon of French society and becomes one of the closest cohorts of the Queen, Marie Antoinette.
Mhm.
By the end of the movie, he has chosen to bear arms and lead an all-black battalion, 1,000-man all-black battalion in the Revolutionary War to unseat the monarchy, to unseat the Queen, his former close friend. And that choice that he makes ultimately results in the Queen being beheaded.
Yeah.
Something had to, that arc describes a huge transformation inside Joseph Bologne to a place where he understood his cultural inheritance and his rightful place in that in that country and in that social sphere and what he needed to do. I mean, it's ultimately the journey of a musical revolutionary, and wherein the revolution is both a literal socio-political revolution, and it's also a revolution of the mind and his way of thinking.
I love the way you described it because it's like Game of Thrones in real life and without a disappointing ending. Like it's kind of crazy.
That is funny. That's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you said that about the ending, because I really didn't want to make a movie that was a downer, man. I wanted to make a movie that was on some level about a person kind of coming into a closer understanding of themselves and a closer awareness of themselves. That by in and of itself is a triumph, right? But it's a sad triumph, as those who watch the movie will see. It's a complicated one. It's not a simple outcome, but there is a triumph in the sense that this person does ultimately understand who they are, their place in the world, and make a stand for that.
For sure. And this movie is about a person that has this fantastic musical ability. The music plays a key role in this. I guess, how did you kind of get that? Like, how did you get that the right feel of music? And were you able to find his works? It sounds like maybe some of his works were lost. Did you have to recreate them, or were you able to kind of find the ones that you were able to use and put them in the movie?
Yeah, so there's a lot of actual Joseph Bologne compositions in the movie. And then there are other pieces that are composed by our two brilliant composers, Michael Abels and Chris Bowers. Michael Abels, did movies like Get Out and Us and Nope, and Chris Bowers did, anything from The Green Book to King Richard. And they in some cases, we were able to find pieces of Joseph's music and re-record those, and they are, you know, operate as a tapestry throughout the movie. In other cases, our composers took pieces of fragments of his music and built on and off those, and made bigger, you know, larger pieces of music informed by Chevalier's original compositions. And, you know, they just worked really hard at trying to kind of straddle that fence between keeping one foot in the period camp, the time period in which the movie was set, and giving a nod to how contemporary the tone of those events also felt. So they had to work really hard to calibrate that balance and to find the right fulcrum for that balance to those two elements to coexist. But I think they did an amazing job. Music's great in the movie.
Yeah, for sure. And just like everything else in this movie, it kind of straddles, you know, like you said, the contemporary and the classical, which was a nice thing about it. It kind of keeps the movie interesting. So I know that we have very limited time. So everyone can check this kind of insane story and the way that this film kind of brings in current event or current cultural norms with classic French themes. It is the movie Chevalier, comes to theaters on April 21st, 2023. This is director Stephen Williams. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
That was Stephen Williams, the director of Chevalier, which is coming to theaters on April 21st, 2023. It is a fascinating movie about a little known but brave French figure that has some really amazing sets, a really interesting story, and some fantastic music. If you like this interview, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.